That means investing in Latinos' economic mobility, because that's the basis of it all. Economic mobility. Everything from making sure Latino small business owners can access capital, to making it easy for Latino families to buy a home, to build intergenerational wealth. How did every other middle-class person do it when they came here? They were able to ultimately buy a home and build equity in the home and pass it on from generation to generation. One of the 4 planks of my Build Back Better plan is about addressing racial inequities across the entire economy. It's about breaking the cycle where in good times, Latino communities still lag behind. In bad times, they get hit first and the hardest, as you've referenced, Arturo. And in recovery, they take the longest to bounce back and only get back to where they were in the beginning, which wasn't a good place to begin with. You know, we're going to use every tool at our disposal to take on these inequities. My Latino agenda also focuses on ending race-based health disparities. Latinos were among the biggest beneficiaries of the Affordable Care Act, with millions gaining insurance for the first time. The uninsured rate dropped from 32% to 19%, and my plan would bring it down to 0. That's what an incredible win. It was a significant win for the Latino community. But now, in the midst of a pandemic, with almost 160,000 dead, those families lost part of their soul, part of their heart. Donald Trump is trying to strip people of their health care coverage in court in the middle of a pandemic. And Latinos are bearing some of the heaviest burdens, both due to higher rates of infection and because Latinos disproportionately serve in caregiving roles on the frontline jobs that increase the risk of exposure and save other people. It's unconscionable. I'm gonna protect Obamacare and build on it with a public option so every single person can have access to high quality, affordable health care. When it comes to fighting this pandemic, we have to be crystal clear. Everyone gets free access to testing and treatment. And when it's available, a vaccine, everyone gets it. We have to fight this virus without regard to immigrant status. That's the only way we're going to beat this thing. And it's the only humane thing to do. We're also going to expand access to high quality education and take on the racial inequities in our education system. That starts early by making sure high quality pre-K is available to every child 3 and 4 years old, because the studies show that it increases exponentially the prospects of success through the entire 12 years. It goes all the way through making sure post-high school education is affordable for Latino students, ensuring public colleges and universities are tuition-free for families making less than $125,000 a year, doubling Pell Grants, $12,000, increasing funding for Hispanic-serving institutions. I started today by speaking about the tragedy in El Paso 1 year ago. We also know Latinos suffer every day from hate crimes and gun violence that doesn't always make national headlines. Under the Biden administration, we're going to get weapons of war and high-capacity magazines out of our communities. I'm going to take the fight directly to the NRA and hold gun manufacturers accountable for the damage they cause to Latino families. And finally, we're going to restore our values as a nation of immigrants. You know, Trump fails to understand the basic truth of immigrants, that they're the incredible source of our nation's strength, and they always have been. All the way back to the 1860s when my Irish ancestors jumped on coffin ships in the Irish Sea, not knowing where they were going, not knowing where they're going to make it to the shore, all the way to today. There's the reason we've been able to constantly renew and remake ourselves, because we've been able to cherry pick the best of every culture. It takes courage to leave and come here, from every continent, from every background. That's why we're who we are. If I'm elected president, we're going to immediately end Trump's assault on the dignity of immigrant communities. We're going to restore our moral standing in the world and our historic role as a safe haven for refugees and asylum seekers and those fleeing violence and persecution. My Lord, we've never made asylum seekers seek asylum outside the United States of America. We're going to stop the inhumane practice of separating children from their parents and work to reunite families. Look at all the families that are not reunited. We're going to stop detaining people indefinitely, invest instead on case management programs to help ensure migrants get the support they need while they're navigating the asylum process. It's going to cost a lot of money, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than building a wall. We're going to restore sensible enforcement priorities and stop terrorizing Latino communities. The idea you wait outside 10 o'clock mass to grab someone from church. The anxiety for the children, the anxiety is overwhelming. It's going to have a profound impact on a generation. We're going to protect dreamers and their families, end every single agreement that the Trump administration signed to turn local law enforcement and immigration officials. And on day one, I'm going to send Congress a bill for immigration reform. We'll focus on keeping families together. It's about families, including providing a clear roadmap to citizenship for 11 million undocumented undocumented immigrants. Stop treating them the way they're being treated, who are living in and enriching our communities every single day. I know that's a pretty big agenda, but this is the moment to get it done. The pandemic has lifted blinders off so many people in this country about who's really essential to our economic strength. It's not Wall Street bankers or CEOs. The middle class, hardworking union members fighting for the rights of all workers, the folks in the Latino community who are busting their necks every day to keep the country running. And I really do believe we're ready to close the respect gap, the dignity gap, the wage gap, the opportunity gap that so many Latino workers have suffered under for so long. You know, my dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joey, when he lost a job up in Scranton and we had to move down to Delaware, and my dad never went to college. He was a graceful, good man. He used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about honor. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. That's what we're going to do. Dignity, honor, treating people with dignity. We can build a new administration that reflects the full diversity of our nation and the full diversity of Latino communities. Now, when I mean full diversity, unlike the African-American community and many other communities, you're from everywhere, from Europe, from the tip of South America, all the way to our border in Mexico and in the Caribbean. And different backgrounds, different ethnicities, but all Latinos. We're going to get a chance to do that if we win in November. It means we need everyone to get out and vote. I can't do this without your help. The path to victory in November is contingent upon Latino voters, particularly in those battleground states. And I'm committed to speaking directly to the concerns of the Latino community and to mobilizing Latino voters. I have a significant staff. We're trying to advertise on Latino stations, on Spanish-speaking stations. We need every single voter to sign up and get engaged in our campaign. We need you to get out and vote with your family and your friends. Make sure that people know how to register and how to vote safely during the pandemic. We need to provide voters with more options, not fewer. We need to expand the option for participation. No excuse absentee ballots, meaning you get an absentee ballot just because you need one and want one. Increased in-person early voting. Have enough poll workers that can sanitize the machines and make sure we can socially distance and wearing masks without taking away meaningful opportunities to vote in person on Election Day. Our campaign is putting together the largest voter protection effort in the United States history because we know that we have to. We've already seen the impact of the pandemic has had on voting rights and voting during the primaries. We know that voter suppression was alive and well in America before the public health crisis. And make no mistake about it. As you pointed out, the census is part of this too. Everyone needs to be counted. 4 former Census Bureau directors who have worked under 9 presidents, both Democrats and Republicans, have called on the Senate and the administration to work to extend the deadline so we get an accurate count. And Arturo, you mentioned the Voting Rights Act at the beginning. Well, today happens to be the 55th anniversary of its enactment. I worked like hell to strengthen and extend that Voting Act when I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. Throughout my career, going back to 1975. Back then, in 2013, though, the Supreme Court came along and stripped the teeth out of the Voting Rights Act. It's the pre-clearance provision, they said, was no longer necessary. I'm going to make sure it's reinserted if the Congress doesn't get it done in the remaining months of this Congress. Just last year, 29 states introduced or carried over bills that tried to make it harder for people to vote, period. This is blatantly un-American. Our democracy, one person, one vote, that's the very heart of who we are. And if the Senate, Republican Senate, Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump don't take up the bill, newly renamed in honor of my friend John Lewis, to restore the Voting Rights Act to its full power, I will make it a priority on day one that we do that if I'm elected president. So I guess what I really want to say is just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And thank you again, Arturo, and everyone at NALEO for the work you've been doing. You make the country stronger. You make us all better. That's not hyperbole. You make us all better. And the country is better, stronger, more prosperous, more decent, more honorable if we, in fact, reach out and embrace the largest population of immigrants in the world, in the United States, and include them across the board. It's a source of amazing strength for us. As I said, I think because of this COVID crisis and unemployment crisis, I think the American people are seeing that now. At least I hope that's the case. I'm going to need your help if I'm elected to get all this done. May God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your remarks, and thank you for joining us at this virtual NALEO annual conference. We wish we could have met in person, but I hope that should you be successful in your quest for election, that you will join us next year in person at the NALEO 38th annual conference. More than anything else, we look forward to both political parties, both campaigns, and both candidates to engage Latino voters across all 50 states so that Latino voters understand what's at stake in this election and they can make an informed ballot. We need both candidates to fight for the Latino vote. So now we're at the final part of our time together in this virtual NALEO 37th annual conference, the conference wrap-up. Thank you all for joining us and for being a part of the NALEO familia during these extraordinary times. If this was your first time attending a NALEO event, I hope it was worthwhile, that you'll consider becoming a NALEO lifetime member. I would like to thank another of our presidential sponsors and the host of today's conference wrap-up, Edison International. Their support has been invaluable in our ability to reach and serve our community and to reach our nation's Latino elected and appointed officials. Edison's track record of community engagement and giving back to build a better tomorrow is a part of their commitment to service, a promise that is realized through their support of organizations like ours. So please welcome Pedro Pisarro, President and Chief Executive Officer of Edison International.
Hi, Pedro Pisarro here again from Edison International. Thank you for attending the conference. We look forward to welcoming you in Hollywood, California next year.
Thank you, Pedro, and Edison International for all you do in support of our organization. You know, we have reiterated how Latino elected and appointed officials lead on the front lines of government as our nation continues to endure this crisis. But just because we're dealing with a pandemic does not mean that all other issues important to our communities disappear. This is why good leadership requires new, innovative strategies and collaboration for tackling the public policy issues our communities face. Our next guest is one of those Latino leaders, serving as the mayor of one of the largest cities in the United States. Please welcome my own mayor, a member of the NALEO Board of Directors, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you, Arturo. It is always a pleasure to be with my NALEO family. And it's my great honor to follow Vice President Biden, a dear friend who asked me to be one of his national co-chairs and find a running mate, somebody who's been committed to our communities for his entire public life. I also want to acknowledge Edison International for helping to make this conference possible, and my fellow NALEO board members who are a source of strength and light every day for me and for this country. I look forward to this conference every year because it's an opportunity to see friends, familiar faces, and to plan our future, to feel the power and potential of our extraordinary coalition. And though we can't be together physically this year, our connections are unwavering, our coalition is as strong as ever, and our vision is clear for a more just America, a place where everyone belongs, and a nation that lives up to its promise, just as it did for my family and for many of yours. The barriers to those goals are always tough to scale, and in this moment of crisis, they seem nearly insurmountable, as we face a virus that struck every community, but hit us, Latino families and people of color, with a devastating force. A recession that's shaken every sector, but delivered too many knockout punches to too many of our workers struggling to pay rent, and immigrants cut off from federal relief. A census count that's been politically compromised and cut short for every community, but leaves so much hanging in the balance for cities and states with large Latinx populations. COVID-19 has affected all of us, but it has not affected all of us equally. In my city of Angels, we saw these challenges early and rose to meet them, bringing testing to all residents, regardless of immigration status, quadrupling test sites in areas with Black and Latinx residents, and establishing the largest emergency rental program in the nation. We deployed unprecedented census resources to reach neighborhoods usually undercounted, and we provided critical cash assistance to more than 100,000 of our neighbors on the brink of financial ruin, nearly 44% of whom were Latino and Latina. We did all of this work because it was right, and it was smart, and it was just.